And it's not that like inherently wanting a lot of money is wrong, wanting to make an impact is wrong, like that any of those things are wrong. I think it's like the way that we ascribe that to our value as human beings. That like we're only worthy as a human being if we're making lots of money. Like it's only worth writing a book or it's only worth starting your business if you make a lot of money off like right off the bat, right? And if you grow
Mhm.
really fast and like all those things and that work isn't worth it and you are not worth it as a person if you don't do that. And I think that Rachel and I discovered that actually sustainable long-term success comes from the opposite place. Like you have to value yourself as a human being. You have to value imperfection. You have to value like the messiness of growth in order to actually see that growth
Okay.
happen.
Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Isan.
And I'm Eric Mertz.
And this is episode 187 of the podcast. It is May 14th, 2025, as we record this. And today we are here with guests Rachel May and Emily Golden. They're book coaches and editors at the Golden May Editing and are podcast hosts of the Story Magic podcast. We're going to talk about anti hustle culture, amongst other things. But first, let us thank our patrons, existing patrons, for believing in our work offline. And here on the podcast, you can become a patron of the arts at patreon.com/Valerie Isan for books, writing instruction, coaching, and planning. And you can go to patreon.com/Strange Air Stories for short stories and novellas in the paranormal mystery genre. There's our little intro
Love
segment.
it.
Um, let's see. Author updates. What do you got, Eric?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
I know, I just forgot to like think about what mine was. I
Well,
just threw you under the bus there. Sorry.
yeah, I just finished all the, interior work for Shadow Signals. So I did all the forward,
Ooh.
the acknowledgments, I did all that stuff this week, which is always very kind of bittersweet for, in
Hmm.
you both of you nodded simultaneously in the square there, so I know that everyone feels the same. Um, so yeah, that's off the desk, and that feels really good. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I've got to say. What about, do you
So the
remember yours
pre-order
now?
link is still up. I've got the link in the show
Pre-order
notes.
link is up. It's out of my hands. KDP said thank you for putting this up here. We really appreciate it. Um, they warn you so many times when you do a pre-order. They're like, "You sure you're going to get it up there? Are you sure? Are you sure?" You're like, "Yeah, I'm going to get it up there." Um, so yeah, it's up. It's ready to go. It's on to the next thing.
Well, I have been revamping my website copy,
Ooh.
and my one-on-one signature coaching program. It's all kind of coming. I haven't like picked a day to like relaunch it, but it's getting closer and closer, and that's exciting. And I'm renamed it too. It's called Aligned Author. So I
Ooh,
like that
I
title.
like that. Yeah.
And yeah, so I spent a lot of time working on website copy, and I think last week I said, yeah, I came up with the book title and the book description for the next book. Um, and I think the next thing I'm going to publish is going to be that um, workbook for focus and finish. But it's kind of been on the back burner after doing this website copy. But now I
Mm.
feel like the website is almost, I mean, it's perfect for now. I think that's what I'm going to go with. It's good for now. It's
I
because
feel like websites are always like that.
right, they're kind of
They're
like a
living
living
things.
document. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it
they're
just is going to
they're a moment in
evolve.
time.
And what I'm hearing from my business coach too, and multiple people I talk about in the industry, actually, any entrepreneur really, that even if you've got it just perfect and it's exactly what you want it to be, in 6 or 8 months, yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, oh, I want to tweak that one sentence, not because you think that the copy editing is wrong or bad. Or there's a typo suddenly that you didn't see a
Yeah.
year ago, but it's more like you're evolving and you're
Hmm.
fine tuning and adjusting your message, and maybe your mission
Hmm.
is changing just a little bit, and so yeah, you're just going to sculpt it a little bit as you go,
Yeah.
and that
It's
feels
growth.
better. Growth, yes. Yeah. My coach yesterday said the problem with having a growth mindset is there's always something to do and you
Yeah.
always feel behind
You
because
should
there's so
stagnate.
many things.
Here's your free coaching. Stagnate for a little while.
Nothing.
Just get
Stagnate.
really stagnant for a while.
Slow
I
down.
Don't
feel like
help
Rachel and I
anyone
had a moment
and
like that. We were
stagnate.
like, no more change.
No.
We're done with change right now. We're
Growing.
just gonna
Be
status
the
quo.
stagnancy you want in your life.
Yeah. Set it and forget it mode, whatever that looks like.
Oh my
Oh,
God. What about you guys? What's up in your author worlds?
You go
um,
first.
yeah. So let's see. I just got a box of like 45 advanced reader copies of my second book. My publisher sent
That's
Ooh.
me, so I have to
awesome.
figure out what the heck to do with those. Um, so I need to like,
What's the
you know,
title of the new book?
it's the second in a series. The series is called The Crimson Curtain. The second book is called Up in Molten Lights. It's a romantasy, Victorian-esque romantasy about a con artist. Um, so yeah, so that's really exciting. It comes out in August, so I have to figure out soon. You have to, there's so many things you have to do when you get physical arcs. It's like you have to go get all the stuff to mail them and then like figure out where you're mailing them and then go to the post office. I don't know, so many things. So that's kind of the big thing there. And then I'm in the last like 20,000 words of the draft of the new book that I'm working on. So that's really exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been working on revisions, which are not my favorite thing ever. I'm a drafter. I like drafting. It's my zone of genius. So I've been working on revising my third book. My first two are out and I self-published them last year, and then this one will come out hopefully this fall if I can if I can revise it. No, but it's just been going a little slower than planned, because as always, life happens. Like you can't isolate your writing life from your life.
Right.
Um, so they have to work in tandem. I'm hoping to get revisions done by late June, send it for beta readers, get it back, tighten it up, and then keep going. Um, but yeah, I have everything planned, I think mostly, but I also am still a very discovery writer at heart, and I always pants my way through things because I'm so brilliant. I just come up with the best ideas ever. Um, so we're going. It's little bits at a time.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are you reading? Who wants to go first?
Am I
Oh
reading?
gosh. I get in these like when I am revising, it's very difficult, I think, for me to read. I like to read a lot of novellas. Oh my God, it comes out tomorrow. I Novellas tend to be my favorite thing at this phase because they're so easy to just consume and then move on. And like
Hmm.
I can read it in an hour. Yay, it's done. So my favorite novella author, her name is Cassie Mint, has a book coming out tomorrow, and I've been fingers crossing it for a very long time. So I can't wait to read that. And then I have like a whole bunch of recommendations for some romanticises, and I read a lot of romance and white shoes. So I've got some of those on the docket, and I just need to like sit down and open something up. But I'm so into like all my brain space is consumed by how am I going to revise this book that I just go back and reread my old books. So I guess I'm reading that.
Mm.
I'm rereading my old books.
What's the one you're in right now? The old one.
It's a series, so the one I'm writing is my third book. So I'm rereading the second book of
Oh,
the
okay.
series. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, what about you, Emily?
I am reading, what am I reading? I just finished Assistant to the Villain, by Hannah something. Help me, Rachel.
Hannah Nicole, last
Meyer?
name M.
Meyer?
Mercer.
No,
Yeah.
something like
It starts
that.
with an M.
Um,
I'll look it up. Don't worry.
and that was super fun.
Mirror, it looks like.
Mirror.
Mirror. That's it. Yep. Hannah Nicole Mirror.
And that was super fun. And I bought the second one, but I haven't really started it yet because with Rachel, like Rachel, I have the opposite problem of I can't read a lot when I'm drafting. It just kind of like gets in my head. So I haven't been reading a ton, but I'm also for our community, we host an online community for writers, and we are doing a book club next month on We Need Your Art by Amy McNee. So that is my focus right now. Is working on.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Look at
Oh my
there it
that.
is.
gosh.
Right there.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. We love Amy, we love her work. And so we're really excited to talk about it with the community.
That's awesome. I am still reading How to Be Old, Lessons in Living Boldly from The Accidental Icon by Lynn Slater.
Mm.
Almost done with that. And I'm going to be going to Florida next week. So I chose my books for the little trip.
Mm,
And
I
nice.
love
and my
doing that. I
short
love doing
stack
that.
includes
Oh my
We Need Your
gosh.
Art.
Love it.
Love that.
And 10x is easier than 2x, which I keep getting that
Mhm.
recommendation over and over and over again. And Angus Nelson, our last guest, also recommended it. So I thought, all right, fine, I'm just gonna buy it because I keep hearing it. The Three Lies of Kate Kay,
Oh,
also
okay.
highly recommended, multiple people. So, and then I have an arc that I just got mailed to me. So I'm gonna read The Many Mothers of Dolores Moore.
Ooh,
Doesn't come out until
that sounds
September.
fun.
So
Love
arc.
That's exciting.
So those are my short stack coming up.
that.
More on whether I get through them all. I had a couple more, and I was like, Valerie, you're only going to be gone for 5 days. There is no
She
way you're
does
going to
this
read
every time.
7 books. So
Emily,
just
Rachel, she does
cut
this
it.
every time.
Every
She goes
Trust
on
time.
me, that's like
vacation.
half
She
the
brings
reason
a
I got a
second
Kindle.
suitcase.
Full of
And
This
books.
the
is
e-reader fully loaded and
right.
downloaded.
And then in 2 weeks, I'll
Just
say,
in
"What did you
case.
read?" And she'll say, "Something I bought when I was there."
Yeah,
It's the way it
exactly.
happens every time. I love it.
Yep, yep, yep.
Makes me laugh.
It's the way it
Your
goes.
mood reader. You never know what's gonna strike
Right? I
you.
have two novels and I have two nonfiction, and
There
one
you
is
go.
like really businessy, and one is, We Need Your Art,
Yes.
Yeah.
Inspirational.
right? So there's a method. I get.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, Eric, what are you reading?
I love going last in this one. Cassie Mint's website was one I looked at when I was just
Yeah.
kind of like going through and looking at like I love romance authors and how they market because it's like it's how you should market. And so
Yes.
I looked at Cassie's website. Um, and I may have downloaded a couple of those books because I may read those. Um,
They're
but
so good. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't understand.
please.
I've emailed her to be like, "Will you come on our podcast? Because we need to talk about this." And I just feel like they're so formulaic and I eat it up every time. Like that's not at all a criticism. I just think she fully understands just enough of what you need to
Yeah.
like
Yep.
get into it. And I mean, I read them expecting them to be what they are. So I think if you go into it being like, this is going to be a perfectly fleshed out novel, like, no, it's not. It's a novella, but they're so
Right.
fun. So I hope you
Yep.
enjoy them.
Yep. I will. Yeah. I have a little. I have a soft spot for like this type of writing where I just like I love hitting the formula.
Yeah.
Um, I had a weird like reading experience. I went to Cub Scout camp last weekend with my kid, fully expecting to sit in a chair and finish my book, but it turned out that the cabin we had didn't have light. So I
Uh-oh.
ended up like I
Headlamp.
had my I well, yeah, and the headlamp is just enough to like kill your eyes. But so I had my Kindle and on my phone, and so I ended up just reading things that were on my phone. So I picked up Michael Shea, The Weird Fiction of Michael Shea, who's a kind of an unknown horror author or lesser known horror author. And I'm reading Daniel Clowes' Patience. He's a graphic novelist. He has this whole series of science fiction time travel love stories. And if you've ever read Daniel Clowes, it's all very bittersweet and like nostalgic and also like really strange. And the art is really characteristic. So I ended up having to put Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King down because I didn't have light, and then it just broke the TBR open. And
Yeah.
you
Jump
know,
the
Can be
stack
whatever. Yeah.
I blame light.
or
Our
the lack
forefathers,
thereof.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, I'm reading Patience, and I'm reading Michael Shea.
Love it.
Nice.
Any tips, tidbits, resources anybody wants to share before we get into the meat? I guess I shouldn't say that for
Light. Get
listening
light. A reading lamp is that's my
vegans.
Get
tip.
a
Get a
lamp.
reading
Yeah.
lamp if you're going to read print books. You heard it here.
All right. Well, I am going to read a little blurb from a bio blurb from the website. Years
Fun.
ago, in the days before COVID, Rachel and Emily met on Twitter through the hashtag writing community. Hashtag. As fantasy writers, they immediately hit it off through beta reading each other's work, which evolved into critique partnering and then a mutual fascination with writing craft. They became obsessed with learning A, how stories worked, and B, how writers' mindsets could help or harm their progress. Together, they dove headfirst into book coaching and editing training, which ultimately resulted in Golden May editing. Please welcome Rachel and Emily.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. We're so excited to be here.
Yes, we tried this last year, and
Yeah.
I think because we plan the guests ahead so far ahead that by the time it came around, it was one of you was sick, I think, or there was
We're
Yes.
always,
sickness
one
in
of
the
We're
us is
always
household.
sick.
always sick.
Yeah. I have a 4-year-old. Emily has a 1.5-year-old, almost two. It just is constant. This whole year has been
Constant
sick, sick,
sickness.
sick all the time.
So as soon as we rescheduled, again, it was like so far in advance.
Yeah.
When I
Nothing
sent
says
out the
community like
reminder
having
call
children.
yesterday, I was like, gee, I hope everyone's okay and that we're actually going to do this. So, yay, we're all here.
Woo.
I'm so happy. Okay, so you wanted to come on and talk about anti-hustle culture when you pitched this idea. I thought, oh, that's so interesting. So, first, I would like to know how each of you came to hustle culture and then away from hustle culture and developed this anti-hustle culture. So, I don't know if it's a story that you tell together or if you both had your own versions of it and came to it afterwards. I don't know. Tell me your story.
That's such a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me like, where
How
did you
did you
come
get
to, how did you come to hustle culture?
oh,
Um,
anxiety?
yeah,
Actually,
it's everywhere.
it's everywhere. Yeah. I think like both of us born and raised in it came to I mean if just from the bio that you read about us meeting on Twitter and then we both had full-time jobs and then we were immediately like let's learn everything we can and let's make our books the best they can be and then also we were like why don't we start a business and then we started a business while we both had full-time jobs and we were like we should do this because it's so like
And
we
then Rachel had
obviously
a baby.
and then I had a baby and like then we were like, let's keep growing the business. You know, we were talking earlier about how we hit a point where we actually were like, stop growing. We
Yeah.
have to slow down.
Stagnate. Gotta
Yeah,
stagnate.
we needed to stagnate. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I feel like we both have individual takes on hustle culture, but very much steeped in it from childhood. I think that's most of Western society is hustle culture is life, is
Yeah.
capitalism is the world I think a lot of us grew up in to be thinking our value is based in what we produce. I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically the root of hustle culture is that your personal worth is how much you can, quote, contribute to society. But it's not even like, oh, your art contributes to society. It's how much money can you make,
Yeah.
really.
Hmm.
That's what
It's
it
all
boils
about
down
money.
to. Yeah.
Money and time and efficiency
Oh, the
and,
my
perfectionism.
my
Yeah.
Oh
first
my
boss used
God.
to say, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to
Time to
clean.
clean. Oh,
And I
yeah.
was like, I'm sorry, this place is spotless. I
Yeah.
can lean. That's hustle.
Yeah.
No, I don't need to
Yeah.
hustle. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I think it's one of the pitfalls of people who are like hungry to create.
Mhm.
It's one of the pitfalls that I think folks like us, I mean, you guys are entrepreneurs also, right? You're authors, you have a hunger to create, to have business, to, have an impact on the world. And I think that there can be this assumption that the only way that that's meaningful is like if you make money, if you make a lot of money, if you make that money really fast, and if you do it in a way that's extremely efficient.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things, right? All of those things are born from hustle culture. And it's not that like inherently wanting a lot of money is wrong, wanting to make an impact is wrong, like that any of those things are wrong. I think it's like the way that we ascribe that to our value as human beings. That like we're only worthy as a human being if we're making lots of money. Like it's only worth writing a book or it's only worth starting your business if you make a lot of money off like right off the bat, right? And if you grow
Mm.
really fast and like all those things and that work isn't worth it and you are not worth it as a person if you don't do that. And I think that Rachel and I discovered that actually sustainable long-term success comes from the opposite place. Like you have to value yourself as a human being. You have to value imperfection. You have to value like the messiness of growth in order to actually see that growth happen. Like it wasn't until we started working through because we started with craft stuff, right? We were like,
Yeah.
let's learn how books are made, how they work, how stories function and teach other people how to do that. And through that, like we will learn how to write great books. And we actually learned in that process, I think, that mindset is almost more important
Mm.
than like working on your mindset as a human being, not even just as a writer, but just like as a human being, work untangling those hustle culture and perfectionism things, like all the stuff that's tied up in that is actually the only way that you're going to sustainably write books for the long term. Because if perfectionism, hustle culture, like all that stuff is in your way, then you're going to hit all these walls um, again and again. And so we see that with our clients. We try to help people work through that because that, I mean, like we deserve to have our books out there.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you
and
feel
so,
that a lot of this is generational?
oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I asked that because my mother-in-law was a great, very influential on me business-wise. But whenever I would give, like, you give away books to make readers and make fans, and when I would talk about doing that, she said, you never give away anything you value. Like, but that's like yes and no, right? Like the this is about a relationship more than a like how can I get this person to give me $5 or $8 or $9?
Yeah. I mean, not to point our fingers at our parents and be
I
like,
know,
we got
please
that
don't.
from you. But like it is a societal problem, I think, especially in the United States and in the Western world and in any culture that values capitalism above anything. So I do think that because capitalism is all about competition, that the only way to navigate an economy is to rank you based on how well you participate in that competition. So it really comes back to the whole structure of our society. And that stems from our parents and our grandparents and their parents before them, and how all of that was developed in response to other economic styles and in response to fear and in response to shame. And I do think I hope that we're moving away from that. The more like I certainly won't be raising my daughter that way to be like, oh yeah, you're only valuable if you're making money. Like, and I don't even think that our parents say those words to us, right? But that's the thing is like you go to college to get a degree that makes money. I started college with a degree in pre-med because I was going to be a doctor. And then when I switched to English literature, my parents had a meltdown, right? Like
Mm.
I think like it's all these different puzzle pieces connecting together to be like if you don't work as hard as you possibly can and this specific economic style, or because you feel like your value is determined by what other people think of you or how much money you make or what you can produce in a short amount of time. Yeah, I think we all get told that from a very young age. If like it's like the if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. We have all sorts of these mannerisms. I mean, that's why growing up, my parents were always like, you can't just sit down and watch cartoons. You have to go do something. Go start a lemonade stand.
Yeah.
Like you can't rest because you're not being productive. You can't take a day off because you're not gonna
Right.
make money. It's everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
So
also
many
baked into
feelings
academia.
happening right now. Like everything you're
Yeah.
saying is like pointing the spotlight on all of my feelings, all of my emotions, all of my self-worth. Yeah, this is a super deep
When
stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
When I told
So
my dad
now
that I
I'm
was
in
an
this
English
like, oh
major,
my God, what do I do about this now? Yes,
I
this is
know.
yeah,
totally the truth of it all. How does one break out of that you're only valuable and worthy if you make money and you make it fast and you make a lot of it? You can't rest, like I also came from blue collar working families that had a lot of respect for working hard,
Hmm.
working long, and still not having enough at the end, like choosing which bills to pay because you
Yeah.
only had this amount of money. And if you rotated it, then they wouldn't get mad at you. If you paid something towards this, then they couldn't shut off that. And, like that's how I grew up. So, how do you
Yeah.
Yeah.
dismantle that?
I think
Um,
it's hard because um, this isn't an actionable thing, so I'll punt it to you, Rachel, after this. But I do think it's hard. If folks are hearing this for the first time, there can be like a resistance, right? Because there is a very real fear.
Mm,
Um, like we need money, right? And I don't
practicality,
want to like
yes.
yeah.
practicality, like we need money to survive. And in this, in this culture that we live in. And so there can be this feeling that the only way to make money to survive is to work as much as possible, right? And that comes from this hustle culture concept that like humans are machines. And if you just do more, you'll make more, right?
Mm,
And I think part of it is start like the part of what we have to do is start to recognize that human beings are not machines and that actually doesn't work, right? And so this is where conversations around burnout and things like that come in because the more that like the more exhausted you make yourself, the less effective you're actually going to be at achieving the things that you're trying to achieve. And so it becomes about taking care of yourself so that you can do the things that you need to do versus like treating yourself like a machine because you think that, the more that you work, the more that you're going to output because it
hmm
doesn't actually work that way. Like humans don't work that way.
Yeah. I
But
think,
what were you going to say?
no, I mean, it just builds all off this thing because we do talk a lot about how um, you're living in a culture of like a hustle culture. It's called that because everybody does it. And you have to live that way. I say that lightly, but to make money, like Emily said, you have to make money. So I think there's a practical side which we acknowledge of like, of course you have to go to work. Of course you have to, quote, work hard. But on the flip side, hustle culture is a mindset that is breeding shame in our lives.
mm,
And like the mindset of I'm not valuable unless I'm making money is what drives a lot of this action, not the simple fact of like I work to survive. Because I think people do. People work to survive. We have jobs because we have to pay our bills. But at the heart of it, anti-hustle is not about shame. Anti-hustle is about like, I am valuable and worthy, and this system sucks, right? And like, I don't have to prescribe to the idea that I can't take a day off or I'm gonna die, right? So I think like there's a separation in the mindset of how you participate in our society
Yeah.
where hustle culture breeds shame, breeds resentment, breeds burnout, it breeds a rejection of rest. That's not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And this is the work that we see with our clients because the myth of a machine is that you treat yourself like you can keep going forever. Like you're the Energizer Bunny and you're never going to stop. But the reality is you will hit a wall. And when you hit that wall, it takes you 10 times as long to climb out of that hole and to like recover and to get back to where you wanted to be. Where if you just like took a day off and didn't feel guilty about it, you never would have hit the wall, right?
hmm
So I think the anti-hustle life that takes away, like takes the shame out of it is about nurturing yourself. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about letting go of the external expectations
Yeah.
where like society tells you you should do this, you have to do it this way, you must produce this much, or if you don't make money, you're worthless. And if we can separate out like the narratives between what's coming from external voices, which are
Mm.
all driving that shame. And then what's coming from internal, like nurturing, of like actually taking a day off will serve me because I'll feel better tomorrow. Versus like, if I take a day off, I'm going to feel guilty about it all day long. And then tomorrow I'll regret it and hate myself even more. Like,
Mm.
they just feed each other. The
Hmm.
narrative just continues to feed each other and it makes it worse. It just makes it so much worse. So in our work and in the work we've seen with our clients, like I have been able to do 3 books more worth of work by resting more, by not feeling guilty about it, by letting go of shame than I ever did before, where every time I took a day off writing, I felt like a piece of crap, like I felt horrible for doing that because the mindset drives your action. And like we say this a lot on our podcast too, process without mindset falls apart. Like you could have all the knowledge in the world and you could know how to write books, but if your brain is telling you you're a horrible person, you're not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. It's not sustainable. It's not going to create consistency. And like your progress will continue to get halted. You might sit down for a week and be like, yeah, I felt really good about that. But as soon as you break that record or that habit or whatever, you're just going to go back to beating yourself up. And then here we are. You've spent 2 weeks doing that, where if you could reset that internal mindset belief and reclaim some of the, like, actually, I am really worthy, or like, I do deserve this rest. I'm not a machine. I'm a human being. Like, and different parts of our lives, we have ebb and flow, and different parts of the month, for some of us, we feel better than others. And like that, you can't isolate this stuff. It's all connected.
So
So,
if
long
you
story.
so if you are trying to separate your mindset from that external expectation and you're trying to feel more worthy and deserving of rest, so that you can thrive and be the best that you can be. Um, I'm hearing like there was maybe some affirmation work in there, like I am worthy, I deserve rest.
Yeah.
And understanding like logically, like this is not my belief structure. I mean, I am internalized it and I forgive myself for internalizing it because it is our culture, but I don't want to follow that anymore. I guess what I'm trying to get at also are maybe some actionable steps that a person could take because it's all very good to say like, all right, I reject that, but like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you
Totally.
actually, reject it?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I feel like there's kind of two first steps. So the first is like we gotta we gotta come down to earth and like look at what are the stakes really, right? Because if we're talking about writing specifically, right? Writing books, writing stories that you love, for the vast majority of us, that is not a life or death situation, right? And we are telling our bodies that it is by ascribing all these like boundaries and things, the things we might ascribe to the things that feed us, right? We're bringing those narratives into our writing and we're saying, oh, if I don't write every day, or if I don't write this many words this month, or if I don't do this, right, then I'm a crap person. It's not worth it. If my book doesn't make a lot of money, then wasn't worth doing, right? And so I think first we have to we have to come down to earth and look at like what are the stakes? What's really going to happen if the worst things that my brain happen? Like, am I going to die? Will it really like ruin my life? And so starting to reframe that, I think. And part of that is kind of the second step, which is awareness. We are so steeped in hustle culture that it's really hard to see it. Because it just feels normal. It feels true. It feels right. And so I think one of the first things that Rachel and I had to do is we really had to like learn. We had to learn about the other ways of looking at the world. We had to learn how to reframe our mindsets. And so I actually leaned a lot on Amy McNee, who we were just talking about, the We Need Your Art book. That is, honestly, I think that is like the a primer. I'm not even done with it yet, but it's like already in the first couple chapters, it's like she talks about the worth of art outside of money, outside of the capitalistic society, how like we need to start embracing and appreciating writing for the sake of writing, right? And that doesn't mean you can't want to make it profitable. That doesn't mean you can't like have ambitious dreams, but it's just like learning to value yourself, your art, the ideas that you have outside of that, that cultural society. That's a great one. Joining a community that is focused on anti-hustle is a really great place to start. We get a lot of people in our Tenacious Writing community who come to us specifically because they're like, I'm mired in this thing and I don't know how to get out. And so
Mhm.
surrounding myself with people who are also having these discussions, these reframes day to day. I mean, daily. I reframe daily, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like learning from others who are doing the same thing can be really helpful. Um, Devin Price's book that I always forget the name of, Laziness is a Lie.
Mm.
It's called Laziness is a Lie. That was a really helpful one for me. Burnout by,
Amelia Nagoski and
thank you,
Emily Nagoski.
Nagoski,
They're sisters.
is a really good one at understanding like how your body processes all this stuff, how
Mm,
we end up in burnout. So I think, those are just a few, but I do think like seeking out knowledge about hustle culture, like this isn't something you're just going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, I
mm-mm.
see, I get it, I've reframed, I'm healed, right? It's like
Hmm.
it's a process. And so I think accepting that, kind of dipping your toes in the water, recognizing you're not going to be like perfect, whatever that means, perfect about, working through this.
I'm
Every single
perfectly
step is worth
worthy.
it.
That's what my,
Yes.
yeah, that's my affirmation. I'm
Yes.
perfectly
Love
worthy.
that. Affirmations are great if that works for you. Oh, and then I guess the third step would be like starting to figure out what your brain is telling you and where those voices are coming from. So for me, that looked like a lot of journaling, just journaling out my thoughts and then rereading them, like looking at how I talk to myself. I was really, really freaking mean to myself, for a long
Hmm.
time. And so being able to see that visually on the page and start to rewrite those as you're learning about how to reframe, that's kind of how we work through this, I think. Anything else, Rachel?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot for me it was this realization that like what I was doing was not working and I wanted to be different. So like, you always have that moment where you're like, I need to change. Something is not going right. What is it? And then I started looking at like, why do I feel these things? I tangentially or like parallel, I guess, parallel to learning about hustle culture. I was also learning a lot about like my own emotions and trying to understand them, where like I would feel my nervous system activate when I like sat down to write and be like, why is my heart pounding right now? Like, or thinking about like taking a day off. Why do I feel so stressed out sitting on the couch? Like I'm just trying to watch TV. Why do I feel so guilty? So I think like I tried to identify a lot of the emotions that would come up and ask, where's this coming from? Why do I feel this way? And like following the thought train to be like, well, I feel guilty because I believe that I have that like not being productive is not a good use of my time. And I'd be like, why? Why do I feel like that? Where's that coming from? And then I'd be like, well, that stems from how my mom worked 3 jobs. Be like, oh, and I never saw her ever sit down. Hmm. Okay. So like the example, my mom is I adore her, and also she's a really hard worker. So she would never sit down. She's always doing something. And I'd be like, "Oh, I feel like I have to live up to my mom's example, and like I'm never going to be able to do that because my mom's a superhero." So like what is going on here? So I would like have to identify a lot of like what's coming up. And
Hmm.
then like you said earlier, a lot of affirmations, and for me it was like reparenting my inner child to be like, no, honey. No, of course you can sit down and like watch TV for a little bit and not feel guilty about it. Everybody wants to watch TV. And I think like going through that work of trying to catch that thought in the moment and
Hmm.
like understand where is this coming from? Like I queried myself so much. Not in the sense of like I didn't trust myself, but trying to understand what's my programming. And I think there's a phrase going around that like your first thought is your programming and your second thought is what you really believe. And like I had to try to understand that, where like the first thought that's going through my head is what I've been taught. Is that what I really believe? And I was like, no, of course I don't believe that resting is morally wrong. Why do I feel like that though? Why is my
Mhm.
body telling me that, that that's true? Yeah, so I did a lot of that. I mean, Emily and I would talk about this at length because it like greatly affected our actions within our business of
Yeah.
like, well, what if today I need a rest day? Am I letting you down? You know, like we
Mm.
had to talk this out to be like, no, of course you're not letting me down. Why do I feel so guilty? Oh, well, probably because of this thing, you know? And I think that's also why I think community is so important is because we're all programmed like this, but the only way to deprogram is to process and change and like rechange like change that thought, reframe. And like Emily said, it takes a long time. Like it
Yeah.
is not that you just wake up one day and you're like, yay, me. I don't subscribe to hustle culture. Like it's everywhere. I mean, I still get like nervous system reactions when I'm like, my revisions are taking too long. Womp womp. I'm a
Mhm.
failure. And I'm like, no, of course that's not true. Like I have my own timeline. Nobody cares. Why is this a big deal to me? And we have like what we call tenets of anti-hustle writing life. And I think most of the time I try to remind myself of those things. So our first tenet is that your worth is not tied to your output. So whenever I'm feeling like that cortisol spike, I'm like, we know this. Our worth is not tied to writing 1,000 words. I am still a valuable human being. Yes, I love myself. Yes, I know my family still loves me. Even if I don't write this 1,000 words, I am not a failure. The second tenet is your success is not determined by someone else's standard. So we thought a lot about like, how do we measure our own success? Because hustle culture tells us you measure it by how much work you do and how much money you make. Is that true? Does that have to be true? And then the third tenet is your body and your brain deserve rest. And I think we very carefully chose that word deserve because it's not just that you need it. It's not just that it's valuable to your future consistency and sustainability. It's that you literally deserve it. And like that is owed to you. Like I fully believe that for every human being. You
I have
deserve
I have a
rest.
little post-it note affirmation on my monitor. It says, "I rest when I need to, and that makes me strong."
Yes.
Mm, yes.
Yeah. So like revisiting that whenever I'm feeling that guilt sitting on the couch or, watching a movie or like instead of writing today, I'm gonna read, being like, I deserve this.
Yeah.
Who's telling me I don't? I don't care about you. Go away. You're not running my life. I'm running my life. Yeah. So like Emily said, a lot of awareness and a lot of questioning and like, where's this coming from?
I hold a lot of value for all that. I'm also a journaler. I also am pretty self-aware. And we were talking about before about having the growth mindset and always trying to
Yeah.
improve yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, I like actionable steps. And
Mm.
I listened to a podcast episode years and years ago. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of it or anything, but he was talking about burnout
Mm.
and how to prevent burnout. And one of the things that really stuck with me was planning in, like putting this in your planner. If you are, if you're not able to like take 2 weeks off every year to just whatever, or if you're trying to build in this anti-burnout system in your planner, at least take off like one weekend a month with
Mm.
no obligations. Like, don't even like plan a massage or plan a
Hmm.
trip out or like just blanket, no plans. And set that up with the people you live with and everything.
Yeah.
Like, that is your retreat day. That is whatever you want it to be. And and I've instilled that, over back and forth, through the years. And that is something that when I am feeling a little bit like manic on the external expectations thing, I start writing that back in my planner, like, nope, the last Friday of the month is mine. I'm not doing anything. That's just
Yeah.
my self-care day, whatever. And I do um, understand about myself that I do need a lot of alone time and a lot of recuperation time and self-care time when I have more um, like if I'm working full time, if I'm out in the world too long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to recuperate longer, I can't
Mhm.
just some of the tools that work when they stop working, I need to like check in and is it because I'm trying to do too much and that the tool belt doesn't work anymore because you're doing too much and so you need to adjust, the tool
Yeah.
belt, adding more tools or doing less here. So it is a balancing act and but I do find that as a nice first step for myself when I do check in and realize, okay, I've gone over the edge again. It's
Yeah.
time to bring back that like retreat day where
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't talk enough about how rest is like it's a learned thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us never learned how to do it. When COVID happened, Rachel and I had started, we were like a year into our business. And so we were like, oh, COVID, lots of time for work, right? And so I worked myself into a burnout hole. And it was COVID, so we were stuck with our loved ones. So it was just me and my husband all of the time. And so I was having trouble resting on the weekends because I was either working or he was like there, right? And so I read this great book called The Power of Ritual by Casper something.
I
Um,
love that book.
I love Casper. He's
I
amazing.
love that book. Yes.
Yeah, that book is incredible. So he has his tech Sabbath where he takes off for I think it's like Friday night to Saturday night and he doesn't use any tech. And I was like, a full day freaked me out. I was like, I can't do that much rest. But I need space. I
I
need
can't do that
space
much rest.
away. I
I'm
need
tired
space
just
away from
thinking
my
about it.
husband. I know. I need space for my husband and I need space from work, space from screens. So I implemented a 4-hour tech Sabbath on Friday afternoons while my husband was still working. And it was so painful. For like months, for 4 hours, I was just ripping my hair out. I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I should be doing all these rest things. And it was so uncomfortable because my nervous system didn't know what to do,
Mm.
with just open time where I couldn't like scroll. Um, and so it was such a powerful learning experience for me, though, in like figuring out what actually would calm my nervous system down, like what actually would give me rest. And it took some time, but I learned so much from it. And I don't do that anymore, but I like have the tools that when I
Hmm.
hit the walls, like you're talking about, or I can feel the tension of like burnout's coming if I don't do something differently. Like I can pull out the tools from my tool belt to like get myself some real rest. But it's tricky. Like we all rest differently. The
Mm.
only thing that defines rest is that it actually like f it calms and like it calms your nervous system and like fulfills you in some way. It doesn't drain. Like writing is a drain. It takes from your creative well, no matter how you look at it. A lot of people are like, it's my rest time. I'm like, no, it's still productive. You're still pulling from yourself.
Hmm.
That's not rest. But it can look, 1,000 different ways depending on who you are and what brings you that calm. Um, Burnout by the
Yeah, I
Nagoski
was just gonna
is a
say.
really great resource for figuring out how to rest if you're like, I don't even know where to start. Like, if you have that, I can't take 4 hours to do nothing. What would I even do with
Yeah.
myself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that book is incredible because it talks a lot about the physiological response of burnout. It's a stress response. So like I think also too we consider these things we've been talking about as very mindset. They exist in the ether, right? They're inside our heads of like, no, your body reacts to this.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And like you produce hormones, you produce chemicals inside your body that cause reactions and physical behaviors. And that book is great because it breaks down how cortisol is really at the heart of our burnout, where an extended high cortisol period triggers burnout, basically. And like most of
Mm.
us, we are constantly in a cortisol state.
Yeah.
And like your body releases cortisol in the process of de-stressing. But if you never do that, your cortisol levels are always very high and it contributes into burnout. So the book is really helpful because it walks you through and it talks to you about like how are you producing cortisol? What causes that for you? What triggers those cortisol reactions? And then also, how do you release it? Because it's a physical process. It again is physiological to reduce cortisol. So that's why if you're sitting on the couch trying to rest and you are guilty about it, it is not rest. You are
Mm-hmm.
producing cortisol. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
resting. So we say all the time, like, rest with guilt is not rest. And
Mm.
like Emily just said, it takes time to
Yeah.
work through that, but it
Mm-hmm.
is not comfortable when your body's producing cortisol. It's not because it's literally the fight or flight response. You want to get away from it.
Yeah.
It's meant to save you, like from dying. Sitting on your couch, you're not dying, but it feels like that,
Right.
right?
I
Yeah.
remember you were talking about mom stuff and the if you've got time to clean, you've got time to lean. My mom was also she also had a lot of anxiety and guilt about not
Yeah.
performing and so hers was never she couldn't sit down if there was something to do.
Yeah. And there's always something
Same.
to
And
do.
she really internalized that. Yeah.
Always
So it was
something
Yeah.
hard.
to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always something to do.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, but I think the last thing, like the last important like thing that I'm burning for everybody to hear is that this like we keep saying that this takes time, right? It's like you have to learn all kinds of stuff about how to reframe like what your brain is saying. Like it's work, it takes time. And that I think for me as a writer, that was so scary because I was like, I don't have time to take a year and a half to work on my brain. Right? Like I've been working on this book for at that point I had been working on a book for 5 years. I'd never been able to get past the midpoint. And I was like, I've already wasted 5 years, a year and a half of just like stopping to work on and learning how to rest. Like that sounds terrible, right? But taking that time to like really work on myself meant that I've written 3 books in 2 years, right? It meant that I learned how to like be comfortable in my own skin, be comfortable resting, be comfortable like believing that I can achieve the things that I want to believe. Like all of that was worth it. Like it takes time and it might feel like, "Ugh, I'm lazy if I do that. I'm wasting time, but it's not. Like I think it's like the biggest gift that you can give yourself is to start learning this stuff, start reframing, start like learning how your body works and why it's programmed the way that it's programmed. Like there's nothing more important and more beautiful and more effective, honestly, at like
Yeah.
helping you achieve what you want to achieve in life and like be happy. I'm so
Yeah.
much happier.
Yeah. Like learning craft is great, but it will not fix you.
No,
Mm.
Uh,
it will not fix your story.
it won't fix your story. Fixing you will fix you. No, but I mean, like we're not broken, right? But that
Yeah.
addressing those things, that's what makes the craft click. Like that's the missing puzzle piece to connect all these things. Like hyper focusing on the knowledge is just like shooting yourself in the foot or thinking that like, oh, I'm wasting time. No, you're wasting more time talking to yourself like you're a terrible person, being mean to yourself, not taking days off. Like I completely agree. And I mean, there's social proof that we have now where when we started, we were like, let's experiment and see what
Yeah.
happens. And then to me, that was a very helpful motivator to try this out because I am also like a very logical person where I'm like, nah, no, I'm not. No, craft, that's the answer. Like,
Yeah.
no, okay, let me experiment with this and see what happens. I'm not committing to anti-hustle. I'm gonna experiment with it. And then I had like enough proof to be like, wow, that actually did fulfill the change I was looking for. And now we see that in the writers that we work with of like, yeah, you're doing more, you're liking it, you love yourself better. Like it's just is like win-win-win across the board because you took care of yourself. Like
Mm.
you've prioritized yourself rather than the society that tells you, that's a bad idea because you
Yeah.
need to produce. Like, nope, it's a myth.
Yeah.
Well, this was super interesting, and I took copious amounts of notes. And yeah, I'm so grateful that you got to come on the podcast and
Thank you.
tell us all about
Absolutely.
anti-hustle culture. Where do you want people looking for you guys?
The best place is probably tenaciouswriting.com. That's our main program, is our Tenacious Writing program. It's a community online resources. We have craft resources, mind resources. We do live events all the time, critique partnership programs, small writing groups. It's the best. It's a very anti-hustle writing space with a lot of ambitious, lovely people. So we don't think that ambition and anti-hustle are, can't live
Yeah.
in tandem. They definitely can. So yeah, that's our main program. You can also find us at goldenmayediting.com. That's where our coaching resources are. And just like our blog and other things that we have to offer, Story Magic Podcast. And then we're also on Instagram at Tenacious Writing.
All right. At Tenacious. Ooh, you got to spell that right though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tenacious Writing. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
This is
much. It was really
wonderful.
lovely to meet you.
Bye for now.